He was the kind of man families leaned on. Ethan Cole wasn't loud or flashy. He spoke softly, smiled politely, and remembered birthdays. At every family gathering, he was the one refilling drinks, fixing loose door hinges, helping the kids with homework. When his parents grew older, it was Ethan who took charge, managing bills, investments, and a family trust his grandfather had built over decades. $500,000. That money wasn't just cash. It was history, sacrifice, a grandfather who worked night shifts, a mother who skipped vacations, a father who never retired early. And Ethan, he was the keeper of it all. Everyone trusted him because he looked trustworthy, because betrayal doesn't usually announce itself. It arrives wearing familiarity. Late at night, when the house was silent, Ethan would open spreadsheets and bank portals. He told himself he was just borrowing, just moving money around, just fixing his own future. He never thought of it as stealing. Not yet. It began with a single transfer, $25,000. Ethan stared at the confirmation screen longer than he should have. His heart raced, not with fear, but with relief. The debt collectors stopped calling. The credit cards stopped screaming. The life he'd been pretending to afford finally caught up with him. He told himself he'd pay it back once his big break came. Then came another transfer. Then another. Each time it got easier. The guilt dulled. The excuses grew louder. They won't need it yet. I'm family. I deserve a chance too. Within 18 months, the number quietly climbed to $500,000. No alarms rang. No one checked. Why would they? Ethan was family. Ethan was reliable. At family dinners, he listened to his mother talk about finally retiring. He nodded while his sister discussed college funds for her children. He smiled while knowing the money was already gone. That smile became his heaviest burden. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it rents distraction. Ethan upgraded everything. His apartment, his wardrobe, his car. He invested in risky ventures, flashy opportunities, can't-lose deals pitched by men who smiled like sharks. For a while, it worked. Instagram photos, weekend trips, expensive dinners. People started seeing him differently, respectfully, enviously. But behind closed doors, sleep avoided him. Every notification felt like exposure. Every family call tightened his chest. He avoided looking at his parents for too long, because love becomes unbearable when you know you're destroying it. And karma, when patient, watches silently. It was Ethan's mother who noticed first, not because she was suspicious, but because she was careful. She sat at the kitchen table with printed statements, reading numbers that didn't feel right. She called Ethan casually, laughing even. Probably just a mistake, she said. Ethan froze. His mind raced faster than his voice. He blamed banks, markets, paperwork. He promised to fix it. But once doubt enters a family, it doesn't leave quietly. An accountant was called, then a lawyer, then silence. The truth unfolded slowly, like a wound reopening every time someone tried to deny it. $500,000. Gone. And the name at the bottom of every transaction was Ethan's. No one screamed. That was the worst part. His father didn't yell. His mother didn't cry. His sister didn't curse. They just stared at him as if someone had died. Trust doesn't shatter loudly. It collapses inward. Ethan tried to explain. He used words like pressure, stress, intentions. But intentions don't refill empty accounts. Apologies don't undo betrayal. He was asked to leave. Not angrily, not dramatically, just quietly. And as the door closed behind him, Ethan realized something terrifying. He hadn't just stolen money. He had stolen safety. He had stolen peace. He had stolen family. Karma didn't strike with lightning. It crept in. The investments failed. The friends disappeared. The car was repossessed. The apartment emptied. Lawsuits followed. Courtrooms echoed his name without warmth. Judges didn't care about excuses. Numbers mattered. Evidence mattered. Ethan lost everything, piece by piece. And still, the hardest loss wasn't financial. It was waking up with no one to call. Years passed. Ethan worked low-paying jobs, sending every spare dollar back to his family. through court-order repayments. He lived in small rooms with thin walls and thinner hope. He avoided mirrors, because the man staring back didn't look like the one everyone once trusted. Sometimes he saw his parents in public, from a distance. He never approached. Shame kept him rooted. Karma doesn't always punish with pain. Sometimes it punishes with regret that never sleeps. One winter morning, a letter arrived from his mother. No accusations, no demands, just words. She wrote about age, about time, about how anger gets heavy when carried too long. She didn't excuse him. She didn't forget, but she asked one question. Have you learned who you are now? Ethan cried for the first time in years, not because he was forgiven, but because he was finally seen as human again. Redemption didn't come easily. There were no reunions, no hugs, no instant healing, but there were conversations. Short, careful, honest. Ethan continued paying back what he could, knowing he'd never fully repay the emotional debt. He volunteered. He spoke to others about financial betrayal. He lived smaller, but cleaner. Karma had taken everything, but it had also stripped him down to truth. Years later, Ethan stood alone at his father's funeral. No speeches, no spotlight, just a man who learned too late that family wealth isn't money, it's trust. And once stolen, it costs a lifetime to earn back, if ever. Karma didn't destroy Ethan. It taught him, and that lesson followed him longer than any sentence ever could. No one talks about the years after the fall, the years when the story stops being interesting to others, but never stops replaying in your own head. Ethan's days became painfully predictable. Wake up before sunrise. Catch buses filled with people who didn't know him. Work jobs where no one asked questions because no one cared enough to ask. He scrubbed floors. He stocked shelves. He cleaned offices after midnight, walking past framed photos of families, smiling in places he no longer belonged. Sometimes he imagined explaining himself to strangers, but shame is quieter than pride. It teaches you to disappear. Karma wasn't loud. It was routine. His sister's children grew older. He knew because he watched from afar. Holiday photos shared by mutual relatives. Milestones passed without his presence. Birthdays, graduations, weddings he wasn't invited to. The family didn't speak his name much anymore. Not out of cruelty, but because moving on is sometimes the only way to survive betrayal. Ethan realized something painful. Life doesn't pause for guilt. It continues, without asking whether you're ready to be left behind. Her name was Clara. She worked beside him on late shifts, laughing softly at jokes he barely made. She didn't know his past. She didn't ask about family. She accepted the version of him that existed now. For the first time in years, Ethan felt seen, without judgment. But love built on silence is fragile. Every time Clara talked about trust, about honesty, about family dinners and childhood memories, something inside Ethan twisted. He wondered how long you could hide your worst truth before it poisoned everything good. One rainy night, Ethan told her, not all at once, not dramatically, just truth. He expected anger, disgust, walking away. Clara listened. When he finished, she said something he didn't expect. That's not who you are now, but it is something you did. Those words stayed with him, because karma doesn't only punish. It asks whether you'll grow from the weight it places on your shoulders. Just as life stabilized, another letter arrived. Legal, cold, unforgiving. A reassessment, a recalculation, interest added, penalties revised. The past doesn't stay buried when money is involved. Ethan felt the old panic return, the tight chest, the sleepless nights, the realization that karma sometimes circles back just to see if you've learned humility or if you'll run again. This time, he didn't run. Ethan started doing something different. He spoke publicly, at community centers, financial literacy workshops, recovery groups, not as a victim, but as a warning. He told his story plainly. No excuses, no self-pity. People listened. Some cried, some judged, some thanked him. And slowly, Ethan realized something unexpected. You can't undo harm, but you can prevent it from multiplying. Time is the one debt no one escapes. His mother's health declined quietly. No dramatic announcements, just fewer letters, slower handwriting, longer gaps between replies. Ethan wanted to visit, but waited to be invited, because karma also teaches restraint. One day, the invitation came. Simple, come if you want. He did. They sat together in silence. Older now, smaller, weaker. She didn't lecture. She didn't forgive fully. She didn't reopen old wounds. She asked him about his life. That was all. Ethan realized forgiveness isn't always words. It's allowing someone back into the room without fear. And sometimes that's enough. When his mother passed, Ethan received nothing. No money, no property, no keepsakes. And for the first time, he didn't feel cheated, because he understood inheritance isn't owed. It's entrusted, and trust, once broken, doesn't regenerate on command. He stood at her grave, knowing karma had taken its final payment. Years later, Ethan lived quietly, no ambition to impress, no hunger for shortcuts. He worked honestly, loved carefully, spoke truth even when silence was easier. People didn't know his full past, but they knew his consistency. And that's how karma ends, not with revenge, but with reflection. It doesn't ask whether you suffered enough. It asks whether you changed. If this lesson hit home for you, smash that like button to help get this message to the people who need it most. And make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next growth session. This journey is better when we do it together. And I truly want to hear your story. So comment the word truth below if you're officially done people pleasing and ready to reclaim your life in 2026.